feels like we're the first responders, we're the only people standing in between the government and these vulnerable populations that we represent.
I think regular folk think essential workers are healthcare and paramedics, and they are, and police, and they are, and fire departments, and they are. But when you talk about who's essential, talk about public defenders and how we're getting folks home.
Determining which workers are essential during the COVID-19 pandemic has left some in the legal service industry in limbo. With ongoing law enforcement and some courts open which require people to need access to vital legal services, the American Bar Association is calling on the federal government to designate the legal workforce essential.
Due process has definitely changed because of the pandemic. Unfortunately, what hasn't is policing practices. They are still very much operating as business as usual, and they're not wearing masks or doing any social distancing themselves. And they're also enforcing the social distancing orders unequally.
Even during pandemic, we can see right now that there's so much racial injustice that occurs when you begin to strip away rights, no matter when you're doing it, when if it's in a national catastrophe or a pandemic. When you begin to reduce those rights, we all suffer.
I really applaud my colleagues who went to court even in the beginning time of our shelter in place, because they felt compelled to ensure that their clients got the best representation no matter what. Whether it was their clients in criminal, civil, and even family, they still showed up despite the fact that some of them did get sick.
I was sick. I had COVID. I was working throughout it. And all I could think about was when I see my little 6-year-old who's with his mom, about my little kids in foster care who don't get to see their parents right now. And the struggle that they may be facing, because I see my own child struggling like that.
I'm in a high risk category. So there are days that I feel severely depressed, and we already have difficult times helping our clients. Some days though, I just have to have a good cry and get it out.
It's very painful actually to watch the members of our staff have such anxiety and fear about engaging in the public arena. And I think that the incursion of their personal life and bringing these personal fears into the workplace is taking a toll.
To limit the spread of hundreds of COVID-19 cases at juvenile detention facilities across the country, attorneys are working to get low-risk incarcerated youths released, especially those who have underlying health conditions.
There was one player, I think, who cannot make the pivot and adjustment in a way that we think adults can. It's children. And imagine you're the child in the room being asked a question by an adult, and you're in a room with a camera, but nobody else is there. There's no one there to say, I don't know what you mean.
Kids that are being prosecuted in family court can be held in juvenile detention. So it's the equivalent of an adult jail. From essentially the outset of the COVID crisis, those kids lost the ability to have visits from any of their family members. What we decided to do was to bring a writ to get as many kids released from juvenile detention as possible, and access to telephone and video conferences with their family members, personal protective equipment for staff and for the youth.
Prisons and jails have been overwhelmed by the virus, accounting for nearly 10,000 cases connected to the top 10 hotspots for COVID-19.
We know that our prisons and our jails are overpopulated. There's a consensus that Rikers needed to close.
Santa Rita Jail, it's a monster jail. It's huge. It's the 5th largest jail in the nation. We weren't completely full when the pandemic started, had about 2,600. So the real focus on getting people out was tremendous. And because of that reduction, I believe, and because of other strategies that have been used to not admit people into jail, we've been able to keep COVID really from spreading.
We've been pressuring New Orleans Police Department to make the police department focus on more serious arrests so that they're not coming into contact with the community and bringing more of the community into contact with the jail.
In response to public health guidance related to COVID-19, many U.S. state and federal courts are adjusting the way they operate.
People are not able to file for a protective order in the normal way. So we have been asked by the court to help them put together a project where people are able to appear in person, they fill out the paperwork, then they are placed in a Zoom call actually with a legal aid attorney and with a judge. We managed to put that together within the first week or so of this courthouse closure, and we've been doing it ever since.
Our operations are 7 days a week, day and night court, as well as holidays. So we haven't stopped.
We are in our basements, in our cars, out on conference calls. We are holding ourselves up in small rooms away from our kids to make sure that we're still meeting our clients' needs in these unprecedented times.
I think we provide a critical and essential service to those people who are in need, who are often at a darkest moment in their life where they're facing these criminal charges and the weight of the government is coming down on them, trying to strip them of their dignity, their liberty, their housing, their kids, and we are often their last refuge or people in the corner to fight for them.